welcome to Iowa for the first round of the 60-plus Racing Adventures Next Gen Cup for the final season in 2024. In the first two rounds, Randy Shoemaker and Mike Grandy have shared the honours, coming in just 2 points apart after one win apiece in the opening rounds of the season at Talladega and Chicagoland. But now it's time for short track racing for the first time this season, in the company of myself, Ian Leary, and Jake Sperry alongside me for your first broadcast on RaceSpotTV in quite a while. Jake, good to have you alongside me. Excited for short track racing for the first time this season.
Well, it's going to prove to be a different challenge here today, Ewan. Thank you very much for having me. This is going to be about a car that is slightly different from what we've had. Talladega, all about speed. Chicagoland, all about speed. Iowa, you have to get a little bit more technical when you get right down to the nitty-gritty of the setup. So when you're looking at a circuit like this and what you're trying to gain out of it over the course of a season, this is where it's going to test a different type of skill for these drivers in the sense of how are you going to make those tyres last and get that rotation through the car along the 12 to 14 degrees of banking through the corners.
100 laps to negotiate here tonight. These are the championship standings I briefly referenced there. Randy Shoemaker and Mike Grandy have been dominant so far, but Robert Love's only 11 points back. David Traynor and John Hay are tied for fourth at the moment on 38. Jack Turner and Dave Watson are tied on 37, just behind. Bruce Paul is 8th ahead of Jerry Kerr and Gene Moore, who are tied for 9th, with Eugene Clark and Wally Moresby the final drivers in the top 12 at least. We've got a few more below that, but the three drivers below have not been at both rounds, instead just the one. 100 laps here, as I mentioned. It's the shortest circuit, tied with the final week of the season, week 13, coming all the way at the start of December. So we're not really going to have short track racing like this again this season. We do have Dover on the schedule and Phoenix as well, but they are longer circuits than here at Iowa, a circuit that has recently been reintroduced to the real-life Cup Series, of course, after about 15 years or so of being on the IndyCar Series calendar for a little bit of time. It's good to be back though for Cup Series racing in Iowa, and that is what we've got here tonight. Mike Grandy with the current pole position, time just ahead of Randy Shoemaker, who's still out there but not improving. Looks like we've got our front row set, and I guess looking at the standings, looking at the previous two races, we'd expect nothing less than those two to be at the top.
No, absolutely not. Mike Grandy has been the driver who has been on pole for the first two rounds of this season, and he's looking to try and do so for a third straight time, and it looks like he's got that under lock and key. Randy Shoemaker, of course, with the championship lead. The only difference maker really was a poor Talladega for Mike Grandy. He got caught on the wrong side in the opening round of the championship, and as such fell down the order. But in terms of pace, he was now unstoppable last week, and he's looking to go for it again. Was taking a look at the practice race that they do just before this, which is a quarter of the distance, no cautions to go. Mike Grandy took that by 2.5 seconds. He really looked quite quick, and you're getting a real look at who's trying to throw what they can at the wall. Randy Shoemaker, one of those drivers who is certainly hoping to do well. Nice to see Bobby Love having a good run, but keep an eye on that 38 of David Traynor. He looked really good in the long run.
Yeah, Mike Grandy has won 12 of the last 14 championships here in the 60-plus Racing Adventures Oval Series. Not, of course, all next-gen series, but all on the ovals, and so we expect nothing less from him. Randy Shoemaker's completed his allotted laps for qualifying, I believe, but he's just carrying on anyway for a bit more practice in the final minute and a half of qualifying. Just how much do you think we can actually take from that quarter-distance race? I mean, it's more of a practice session, more of a glorified practice session than anything else, but it maybe does tell us a little bit about that long run speed. Just how much credit are we going to give to that 25 lap race win for Mike Grandy, and just how might that change when we add another 75 laps?
Well, the difference, I think, is going to be cautions, and I think it can't be understated in terms of a race like this, when you've got 100 laps, how much a caution can go through. I looked around that race, there were 2 or 3 separate incidents that happened in that one that could have thrown a caution out and brought the field back together and neutralised it. Mike Grandy had the ability to run away and was very consistent over his pace. Randy Shoemaker looked good early on, could stay within a second for about 15 laps, and then started to fall away with the tyre life. It's going to be about preserving the tyres, because you've got a lot to work with here around this circuit. The line's going to migrate a little bit as well as this race is going to go on. So when you sit down, you look at it, Ewan, on paper, it's a snapshot. It's just a small snapshot of what it is. It doesn't give you a guarantee, but 2 seconds over the course of a run could have very easily been 8 or 10 by the end of a race.
Looking forward to seeing how it's going to develop. It will start with Mike Grandy on the front with Randy Shoemaker alongside, the two class of the season so far. But what about the rest? Bobby Love and Eugene Clark on row 2 ahead of David Traynor and Bruce Poole, who will share the third row. Wendell Lowe will be on the inside of row 4 alongside Dave Watson. Wally Moresby and G Moore round out the top 10 with Jerry Kerr and JC Hay lining up on row 6. And Russ Addy, who is 13th, may be alongside Craig Vaught at the end of or the start of this race, but Craig didn't qualify, so we'll see if he decides to race. 100 laps ahead of us. It's predicting at the moment a 41-ish minute race. With cautions, as we mentioned, that is seeming unlikely, and a very hot circuit as well. 43 degrees down on the circuit. Virtual standard time is 20 to 4 on the 15th of May. So actually this is one of the hotter times of the year and one of the hotter track temperatures as well, as the sun beams down as we look from the sky here. Just wonder how quickly they are going to chew through their tyres in that case, and whether this is going to be an abrasive circuit or not. You'd imagine that on a short track, as with most short tracks, these drivers will try and keep their pit stops limited to just making those under caution rather than having to pit in under green.
Well, they can't pit forever and say, I've got fresh tyres for days. They've only got 6 sets of tyres to work with, which when you've got caution after caution after caution, you'll be surprised how quickly you'll burn through those. They've got 4 fast repairs as well, so if they find themselves in the barriers at any time, they've basically got 5 cars lined up to say, you know what, here's another one, go back out there and get going once again here in Newton, Iowa, which is a place in the United States in Iowa, which is famous, of course, for the airplane accident of a former boxing champion, Rocky Marciano, back in 1969. But these drivers are hoping that they're going to be soaring here today, and they'll know that they'll have a very tough challenge with the way that Mike Grandy has been working his pace as we begin our formation lap.
Yeah, we've got 2 today, one out of the pit lane and one actually on the circuit as well. So drivers will make their way around this 3/4 of a mile circuit all over again. As I mentioned, this is the tied shortest circuit on this calendar. We have to wait right the way to week 13 to go the same distance, 3/4 of a mile at the end of the season as well. But as I mentioned, short track racing still to come at Phoenix and Dover before the end of the season. We are done with super speedway racing. Talladega has already been in the opening round of the season. That was interesting to start the season at, but that's been put behind us now. Plenty of 1.5 miles to come at the likes of Kansas, Las Vegas, Michigan, and the like. They're to come a little bit later on. But it's time for short track racing. Mike Grandy and Randy Shoemaker on the front row together, and it's going to be in the control of Mike Grandy in a short moment as the iRacing pace car pulls to the driver's left. And Grandy will now be in control of the field, slowing briefly to the line and then hitting the gas, firing towards the line. The green flag wave to Iowa. We're racing for 100 laps here in the 60 Plus Racing Adventures Next Gen Cup.
It's an important start that has to be made here around this Iowa circuit because it sets the trend for everyone else. Expect a lot of single file running around this circuit. One car going way up and into the barriers. That's Wendell Lowe back there, who finds himself with a little bit of trouble, able to fall back into line. But you have to be very nervous at the start because you are a little bit more reliant on the left foot rather than the right, being dominant over the course of this one. But it's a nice clean start for Mike Grandy. He's got the clearance he's wanted over Randy Shoemaker, and it's 5, now 6 to 8 single file as they now rush through. Here comes the look back down the inside once more from David Traynor.
They're not exactly running around the bottom next to the yellow line. They're sort of entering through the middle, and that can be used as a bit of leverage maybe to get down the inside. David Traynor looking to do that again here on Bruce Poole, or are they just conflicting their lines through 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4? Up in the background, Wally Moresby very nearly getting into the wall off of 2, but Daves it, doesn't quite get into the wall, and will sort of course get a bad run to the back straight, but he retains 7th, and of Wendell of Rosati and Jerry Kerr, who round out the top 10. Craig Vogt, by the way, did get away well at the back. He didn't qualify, but thankfully we've got 14 drivers for this race, and a very good start, as expected, for Mike Grandy, because it's creating this battle for second place.
Absolutely it is. 1.1 seconds clear through 3 laps worth of running. He is flying. Randy Shoemaker, cork in the bottle, it seems, at the moment, with Bobby Love behind him. Then you've got, of course, Eugene Clark, Bruce Poole, David Traynor, and, of course, sat there just being patient, Wally Moulsby, who's trying to get into the action with his Toyota, and he's very nearly found himself in trouble. But at the moment, the Bucky's car making progress. Bobby Love, who is up there in the championship, hoping to give Randy Shoemaker something to think about at this moment in time, and this is going to be a very heavy and intensive race. There's going to be a lot of thought, maybe not so much in terms of movement, but you're going to see that line move. Drivers are going to be down low trying to find that angle, but they want to use the banking. There's 2 degrees difference of banking top to bottom, so you'll see drivers try and throw the car down in, maybe even some liking that middle line, keeping a nice consistent 13 degrees of banking, which is lucky for some, and then use that ability to try and battle away. It's getting busy further back though, because you've got JC Hay looking down the inside of Jerry Kerr, who can't slam the door. He's got to go high side and into the bends. He finds himself going.
Yeah, very wide from him, I'm afraid. And as soon as you get... Oh, and he's in the wall again off of 2. As soon as you get above that little shaded surface on the bottom of the track, then you start to be in the marbles and you start to be in trouble. And Kerr really is again in the wall off of turn 4, really is in trouble. Gene Moore gets down the inside on the way towards turn 1, and that's going to be 11th for the 65. Kerr stuck up on the outside, but also goes through in the 18. I just wonder whether one of those bits of contact has given him some damage there, Jerry Kerr.
Well, that's going to be some worries there as we look at JC Hay and all that's going on. It is absolutely going on for second, meanwhile, as this is all going on. And there's Gene Moore taking a little bit of a look then as that all plays out. It is frantic here from second on back as we focus on 10th at the moment, and JC Hay at this point in time just still able to keep going. He's one of the bigger movers at +2. Russ Addy +5, the best at the moment that's come to that. But look at this group. They have dispatched of Wally Moulsby. He's falling back into the clutches of Russ Addy, but this group of 5 right now, Shoemaker is going to have a little bit of trouble. They were 2 wide about 2 laps ago for both the front and the back of this group, so Shoemaker had Bobby Love to deal with. Bruce Poole and David Traynor were dueling it out there on circuit, but already at a 10th of the way through this race, it's this group that's pretty much looking at, okay, what do I need? Watch out for the run for the 57. Got a great drive out of 4.
Well, you need good runs round here. Straights aren't long, and diving down the inside not easy, but David Traynor trying to do that now on Bruce Poole, who goes round the outside and should hang on there off of 2. We're looking at the top of your screen, by the way, of course, at the battle for 7th position as well. They're not too far away from these guys. There's a lot to watch at the moment. Side by side for 5th and 6th, Poole and Traynor exchanging places again as Traynor continues this attempted move. One of the hallmarks of Iowa, really. You've got to sometimes take multiple laps to make just the one overtake, and that's what David Traynor is trying to do at the moment.
Well, he's just about to get it, because caught up in the marbles up on the high side there is Bruce Poole, but now he'll pick up the run off the exit because the door is left wide open by David Traynor, and there goes Bobby going for the outside on Randy Shoemaker, who's stuck down low. 44 is now moving up to 2nd position right now, and that was a lovely pass there, aggressive down to the inside, and there's been a lot of these drivers just feeling like they're happy to leave that room. There's not really been that sense of aggression, and that's why Traynor and Poole have been side by side for 15 laps each, because they're heading up towards 15 laps, because they're looking at what they've got going on. Nobody's really out there wanting to be really pushing the boat out. This is the sort of series where you've got to maybe get your elbows out slightly, as we see that here from the onboard perspective of David Traynor. It leaves 1 car's width there to the outside, which was taken by Poole, but Poole is just prioritising that exit and gaining the slipstream from the likes of Eugene Clark in front. That is what's keeping parity.
Well, they seem to both almost be stuck behind Clark, or stuck because of Clark here. They're still locked together side by side, but even when Poole gets a run off the exits of corners, which you'd expect him to do, just gets slightly boxed in by Clark. Now run round the outside for Bruce Poole. Is this the chance? It's a much better run from turn 4, and he's finally clear. Can he pull in front of Trainer here and secure the position? Not really. He's still giving room on the inside as if he is side by side with David Trainer, and eventually they go single file. But what a long battle that was, and after all that, they're still as they were in 5th and 6th.
Well, I think Bruce Poole really likes that high line, and he's trying to cultivate it up there on the top. That line is going to move with the amount of drivers that you got out on the circuit, always looking to try and get a bit of perspective there. And so you're really looking at, okay, well, there's going to be differences out there. Little half catch there by Bruce Poole is going to bring that slightly back in together. But Randy Shoemake here is really struggling in the number 3 machine. I think he's got a car that he can't unlock the grip on. Comparison to this driver right now, Mike Grandy, number 12, out in front. 3 seconds clear and absolutely flying in his Chevrolet. And well, take 2. Let's go again. Straight to the inside goes David Trainer. The big lunge down low. He gets what he wants out of it, and he's got the clearance as well to boot, heading to 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's the difference. He was a bit more decisive there in that attempt, and so he's got 5th place as a result. A bit more decisive, also had a bit more space to play with, because Eagles was up the road, and on board we go with him. I'm going to make a different prediction about Randy Shoemake. I reckon he's just hanging back and conserving his tyres for the moment to strike a little bit later on in the race. Don't forget, we're not even 20 laps into this one at the moment. We've got a very long way to go indeed, and so just less than 20 laps gone in this race is not the moment I'm going to judge Shoemake for a lack of speed just yet. Anyway, if this continues, then obviously I'll have to. But I think he's just holding back for the moment, saving those tyres and maybe coming through later on. It is always a concern when someone drives away, especially in NASCAR Next Gen racing like this. Someone drives away to the tune of 3 or 4 seconds, as we've got with Mike Grandy at the moment. There's always a concern in the back of my mind that he's chewing through his tyres that bit too quickly.
Well, there's always that sense that when you're out there and you're going a lot quicker than the drives around you, then yes, that could be something that happens. But with the way that Mike Grandy has been dominant over the last 14 seasons, he's got 12 titles. You look at the fact that when you sit down and you look at him, he is walking away at the front of this field from Bobby Love and Randy Shoemake, that this is going to be a very tall order to try and bring that back. Yes, he will struggle. It might mean he's got to come in a little bit earlier, but if that is the case, then they're going to have to sit to it. So this is going to be about sitting back and realizing that this is a race in phases. You're not going to win the race on lap 22 of 100, but you can absolutely lose a race here at lap 22. It takes one small mistake, one wrong catch, and the car can turn around, and that could basically be that. Shoemake keeping a little bit of steadiness there. 25.3 on that last lap, dropped about 700ths to Bobby Love just in front. Randy, by comparison, is about 0.2 of a second quicker, and it's going on right at the back of the field as well. All cars still on the leading lap. No dramas so far. Dave Watson looking at Gene Moore trying to find a pass.
Yeah, that's the 13th position in the field. They are 16, 17 seconds behind. A lap time round here, by the way, 25 seconds we're into now, because the tyres are beginning to drop off to the tune of about 7 tenths of a second. So we're not too far away from drivers going a lap down, if indeed that is going to be something to factor in. And as we've seen with overtakes so far, even just for position, lap traffic could definitely play a role in this race. But then again, which oval races do they not play a factor in? They will certainly be something to talk about. Meanwhile, Craig Vaught is making some great progress here. He started down in 14th after not qualifying. He's now looking at 9th place at the expense of Wendell Lowe, who is on the outside and has been passed for 9th.
Well, Lowe's going to need some Jimmy Johnson-style pace here to get back through, and hopefully he will get himself that opportunity to gather that back. But Craig Vaught doing what he needs to. Also, Wally Moulsby on that lap, losing out to Russ Addy, who's definitely got pace. His 26 flat in qualifying, definitely not attributed to his overall race pace out there. I'm looking at his practice times. He did a 24.4 in practice, which I believe puts him as the 3rd quickest driver in practice. So to be so far down the order is going to be a little bit concerning, but he's got now to chase on right now, because Bruce Poole will be next on his target list, and that would put him towards 6th position and a gain of 7 over the course of this race so far.
Would be great to see. Just lose our graphics for the moment, by the way. We'll have them back in just a few moments' time. But I can't tell you that Mike Grandy is still leading. 4.2 seconds now, the gap, as Bobby Love began to just decrease that slightly to about 3 seconds. It's begun to balloon again, and Randy Shoemake is catching Bobby Love now for that second position. There is the battle. You can see him in the blue and white number 3 car, Randy Shoemake, looking for a way past the yellow and red of Bobby Love in the number 44, currently third place in the drivers' standings after just 2 rounds. 11 points off Shoemake, who currently leads after his victory at Talladega and his second place finish at Chicagoland in the opening 2 weeks of the season. I suspected this might happen. Shoemake is coming into his own by the looks of things, not in terms of catching Mike Grandy, but he is looking pretty threatening for second now.
Well, I've been listening to Randy Shoemake's engine noises every time he's been going through the corners, and any time there is a modicum of wheel spin coming out from his tyres, he's lifting off the throttle and he's a little bit more tame at putting the power back down. He's feathering that throttle quite nicely, and that's allowing him then to preserve the tyres, because the more wheel spin that you put into the rears and the tyres that you've got, the more that it's going to lay down on the circuit, the less that you've got on the tyre carcass itself, and basically you're not going to have that ability to use as much rubber in the second half of your opening stint. So this is where Randy Shoemake's going to try and come into his own, trying to get that run that he wants to move back into second position and give Bobby Love something to think about. Back in 8th position, though, is a case where Craig Vaught has been able to pull away. He's through now on Wally Moulsby. So Moulsby is someone who is starting to fall backwards over the course of the last couple laps or so.
Yeah, 9th for the 98. As we complete lap 31 of 100, approaching a third distance gone. Now, what is Mike Grandy going to do here in lap traffic? He's 22 seconds ahead of Dave Watson. That means he's only 2 or 3 seconds away from catching the 17 and having to pass him here. I mean, with such a lead that traffic might actually not be such a factor that it normally is, but just wondering how cooperative those lap cars are going to be and just how they're going to affect maybe battles like this, where driver coming through might try and use the lap car as a pick and try and just get through as a result of that, as Love goes very wide there. Not sure whether he's searching the grip out there or whether he's just missing the corner.
It's a little bit of A and it's a little bit of B there, and you couldn't get much closer to the barriers than that heading through at turn 2. In fact, he clipped it going on through, and he's got to be careful every single time he goes up there, because of course the car is naturally going to get looser and looser as you go, and if you start hitting the panels, of course, and causing a little bit of issues there, you're going to create more drag on the right hand side of the car. That's going to make life a little bit more difficult out there, and the one thing it will also affect is the fuel consumption out there too. So you've got to be very alert to what happens every time you clip the barriers. The Bucky's car will be due for a pit stop. Not bad for a car that's one of the most premier, I would say, fuel stops that you find in America. The Bucky's chain, absolutely wonderful every time you go in one.
Never been. So I'll take your word for it. Derek Kerr in the pit lane in the 199. That's our first stop of the day. Now, I guess he's splitting this race into thirds as we've just gone past lap 33. Gets jacked up on the right-hand side and will on the left pretty shortly as well. As you mentioned, they do have enough tyres, more than enough tyres, for splitting this race into thirds, but I just wonder whether the time loss of going through the pit lane twice as opposed to once is going to be the thing that undoes Jerry Kerr.
Well, that's always going to be something you're looking at. If you can't make the tyres last, then the first thing you're going to be looking at is, well, how much time am I going to be losing with a green flag pit stop? Because if any caution comes out, you're stuck on the wrong side and you're only going to be able to get back so much with a lucky dog. So that is where you sit down and go, I don't really want to be making a green flag pit stop if I can. That's why drivers absolutely know that if they go anywhere between middle and long, as there goes Russ Addy down the inside of 1 and 2, getting the move quite comfortably done on Bruce Poole, there has to be said. In the end, you look at what you need. A lot of drivers love going long on that first stint if they know that it's going to be a long green flag run, because they know they can try and hold out for that caution and they're in position should the yellow flags come out.
And we'll see when/if we get our first of those in today's race. Lap 38 about to be completed now by Mike Grandy. Bobby Love still holds second place here. He was in free fall as far as his times were concerned not so long ago, but Randy Shoemaker's not necessarily been able to do anything as far as overtaking the number 44 goes here. They are now encroaching on a bit of lap traffic though. That's Dave Watson in the Castrol car just up ahead of them. He's 13th and pulling quite nicely out of the way. Not F1 style blue flag rules here, of course, but Watson making sure he's out the way in plenty of time nevertheless. And one of the advantages, of course, of having so much space on this track as we have with just 14 entries is that you do actually have the time and space to move out the way of those drivers coming up on the back of you, especially those who are battling for podium positions, which these two are. Bobby Love just pulling away a little bit in second place and getting that small, albeit, bit of distance over Randy Shoemake now, 0.3 of a second.
I really am loving the communication I'm hearing over the radio from these drivers saying, oh, hello, yes, I will stay out of your way as you go through. So the lap traffic game, I think, is going to be really interesting because they are doing everything that they should do on an oval when it comes to being lap traffic here, Ewan. What the traditional sense is that you've got that high line, you've got to drive up through, and that is Wally Moulsby going for a ride as he jumps into the infield and just about avoids the barriers there. So he's done very well to keep himself out of trouble at that moment a couple laps ago. That, though, is going to be for him not ideal in the circumstance, and that is why he finds himself now a lap down in this race. You've got to be so alert out there every time you come off of 4 because you're not down to 0 banking. There is still 10 degrees of banking on that front stretch, so you've still got to deal with stuff. And David Traynor, by comparison, having himself a little bit of a moment. I believe that would have been in the practice as well.
Yeah, I feel like both of those crashes were in practice, so there's just a view as to what can go wrong, although Wally Moulsby is losing places in reality as well. Maybe that one for... I still don't think the one for Wally Moulsby was actually in the session either. In the pit lane for somebody just ahead, that is Moulsby, but Shoemake gets close through 3 and 4. Not close enough again, though. We're kind of getting deja vu, lap after lap after lap here. They're at the same distance, and Shoemake still making similarly little impression lap to lap on this second place.
Well, it's quite interesting if you go in early because you will get the tyre advantage, and with the way that they've dropped off about 1.3, 1.4 seconds, you get one of those every lap. You'll get a massive advantage every single lap that you tune in and get that advantage. But of course, you have to pay the piper at some point and take that time back. Shoemake again, happy staying low, seeing that very, very tight run up the hill there for one Mr. Bobby Love. And this is where you're sitting down and saying, what can I have? Looking low side goes number 3, 2P2, and let's get ourselves then a great understanding of what makes this fantastic. They are flying about at this moment, and that was big in the context of Randy Shoemake's race. Jumping into second gives him track position now for if he wants to make that call to dive onto pit road.
Well, Bobby Love looks chronically tight, actually, in the corners now. He looks like he's really turning the wheel, or trying to get that car around, and I just wonder whether his front right tyre is beginning to feel the effects of 46 laps at full speed here at Iowa. There's a view, by the way, as to who is moved and who has not. That sort of reverses any of the position gained in the top 5. We haven't had a single one now as Shoemake is back into second, but Rustadi and Crispo are the ones that were shouting out for 7 places gained each so far in this race after sharing the back row at the beginning.
I tell you what, you've got to give some credit here to Russ Addy. On lap 45, he was still doing 25.7s out there, which is just a 1/10 of a second slower than what Mike Grandy, your race leader, was able to do. He is really motoring at this point of the race, and he will have David Traynor in the sights, 25.9 on his last lap compared to the 26 flat of Traynor, so he's definitely going the right way. Now watch there, that's Jerry Kerr, who remembers already come into the pit, and the big difference is he's unlapping himself with the tyre advantage. 1.1 seconds the difference is the 89 of JC Hay making that stop from Club Ohio. He'll be looking to get out and away, and he'll get the green marker cone to get himself going, but of course he's got to exit onto the circuit through the blue marker cones, which will indicate he's back out on circuit again.
Quite helpful these days that we've got those in iRacing, so I could stop getting myself some penalties for rejoining badly. Randy Shoemake going to get overtaken by Jerry Kerr as well, down on the low side. Haven't seen too much of that, staying right towards the yellow line on the left-hand side, but Kerr's having to use that here to make progress. I just feel that making 2 stops is going to be a disadvantage to Jerry Kerr here. I mean, it's all well and good him unlapping himself here, and he's getting a monstrous undercut on some people he was around, but surely he's not going to be able to make up enough time. I can't see it for the moment.
No, it's definitely not going to work if it stays green, that much you can say, but if the field cycles out and there's a caution, he's in prime position because he's gained that track position by going out there and being aggressive. Gene Moore just in front of him just dived in for the pit, which leaves only a handful of drivers. Bruce Poole in the pits, for example, so Grandy, Shoemake, and actually, speaking on cue, Bobby Love has just jumped in, so this is a big ploy by the 44 machine, Bucky's car, to jump down in, make that pit stop from Club Midwest. He is looking for one thing and one thing only, and that is, once he's done with his pit stop, to be back ahead of Shoemake again.
Yeah, it's a good idea here for Bobby Love, I think, to pit in early and try and get ahead of the number 3. Mike Grandy will probably respond to Shoemake, but I reckon the 3 car has got to be in this time round as well. Just to cover this one off, David Traynor is in behind as well. Dave Watson yet to come in, and he might pass them both. If he stays out this time round. Eugene Clark and Russ Addy both come into the pit lane, but I don't think Grandy and Shoemake responded to Bobby Love there. I think that's a bit of a mistake.
No, Shoemake's diving in now, so Mike Grandy stayed out, but Randy Shoemake really struggling to get himself down onto the apron and into the pit lane. It's just a 64 click pit lane out there, so it's really not much at all in terms of speed, running about 45, 50 mile an hour down the lane, so you've got to be really, really switched on. Finally, your race lead is going to come in Mike Grandy. He was waiting for the field to cycle before he did so. Now all eyes will have to turn to car 44 and Bobby Love, and what he's wanting to do as we take a look at Randy Shoemake diving into the pits and looking at his box time.
It's a very awkward box to get into as well as you're going round the bend at turn 1 and 2. You've got to spot your pit lane lollipop man, as they used to be called, to dive in, and it's pretty difficult to do round the blind corner. So Grandy follows him in and naturally will pull into the box just as Shoemake leaves. There he goes.
He's got it.
Picking up a bit of smoke as he locks up. Now Bobby Love, you just saw through the top of your screen, has got through. So the undercut clearly worth it. We knew the tyres were going off there for those leaders, but maybe not quite that much. Bobby Love has not only had that 1 lap extra, I guess, on those new tyres, but wow, he's been quick clearly as well. 2 seconds the margin. I was not expecting it to be quite such a large gap.
Well, that's all down to the pit entry there from Randy Shoemake, and that's why the best in the world always practice pit entry. They practice the middle of the pits and they practice the exit. That's where it becomes really important. Getting busy in the midfield as well. It is right now all stuck behind Wally Moresby, because you've got JC Hay there. You've got your race leader Mike Grandy, still 7 seconds to the good. Bruce Poole's fallen down a lap, by the way, and you've also got Dave Watson as well. So you're really seeing here why it gets busy, and this is where it gets very treacherous. A lot of cars close together can very easily have a little bit of contact here and there. 56 laps straight, we've gone green.
And it's really created the situation we have on our screens. Mike Grandy leading by 6.5 seconds and just scraping the wall off of 2. Bobby Love 6.5 seconds back, is on his own now with Randy Shoemake and David Traynor fighting for 3rd position, although it's not much of a fight for the moment. Shoemake is just keeping Traynor at bay. Eugene Clark is in the top 5 for the moment, and with Russ Addy chasing him down. Jerry Kerr, Craig Butt and Wendell Love, the final drivers on the lead lap, low, excuse me, on the lead lap, but I think the 0.22 is going to be lapped pretty shortly by Grandy, who is still going very, very quickly indeed. There's the view backwards from him to what you say is a very exciting midfield battle. That's from Wally Moresby backwards to JC Hay and Bruce Poole as well, fighting for 10th place. Bruce Poole quite a long way down.
He certainly is. We've just had a change for 3rd, so David Traynor has used the outside lane and he's got through on Randy Shoemake. Now, we saw how Shoemake struggled early on in the opening stint, that he's got a car that very much doesn't like that early goings, as there's a little clatter of the barriers behind by Eugene Clark. He's got to be very careful about that as he looks to try and hunt this down. But Randy Shoemake here, he needs that car to wake up, and it will only wake up in about 20 laps or so. So this is important laps here for David Traynor. He's got to build the gap now, and he's got to build that margin.
Yeah, I think you are correct to say that Shoemake was just struggling. He wasn't hanging back on the tyres by any means. He was just struggling, I'm afraid. As we look at the battle for 10th position here, this is quite lively. JC Hay getting dived down the inside of by Bruce Poole, I think that is, in the 57, or is it a lap car lapping themselves? I'm not entirely sure for the moment, to be honest. Down the inside. Trying to see, it is indeed Poole, yeah, 57 on the low side, and again quite low down compared to where you'd expect to see him, so you would expect Poole to make this. Oh, blast! Big crash in the background, and up and over onto his roof goes Wally Moulsby, and that brings out our first caution of the day. Just got loose off of 4, slammed into Gene Moore, I think it is, or excuse me, Dave Watson, who's an extra lap down compared to the rest, and Moulsby went up and over and onto his roof.
Well, he very nearly found himself saving that. He just got loose through the corner, and I think he got scared how high he went up the circuit there, heading over towards the barriers. It does bring out the first caution here in this one, but for Wally Moulsby, he's been looking through the practices like he's been trying to hold on to it all night. It very nearly caught out as well, right in the latter stage of that incident. Bobby Love, who had to jam on the brakes to avoid any drama there, but that puts a lot of perspective into this race right after the caution period. Now this is going to put a little bit of a question mark to these drivers. They haven't really gone too long on those tyres for some, for example, like Mike Grandy. Do you come in and sacrifice that track position for a set of tyres? I'd say if you're about 4th or 5th back with only 8 on the leading lap as things stand at the moment, I think you've got every reason to jump down into the pits, get a new set of tyres and try and go attacking on this next phase of the race.
And Bobby Love has done that by the looks of things. The cookie dog, by the way, going to be given to Wendell Lowe. But Jerry Kerr has come down pit lane for whatever reason, outside of the usual pits opening sequence, if you like. I don't know quite why he's done that, because we were talking earlier about his strategy needing a caution at pretty much this time in the race. He would have been absolutely laughing now if he was still on the lead lap, but he isn't. He's down in 12th position. Interesting call for Bobby Love and David Traynor to come in, though. They were some of the early takers as far as the top 5 goes. However, I still don't see there being much benefit to them having 10 laps fresher tyres. There'll be some, of course, but not loads, you wouldn't have thought.
Well, it could be the difference maker between 2 or 3 tenths of a second around the end of a stint. I think that's what we're probably sitting at and looking at this moment as more cars jump in there who were a lap down trying to gain that lap back. So Bruce Poole, JC Hay, I think Gene Moore is also in there who's jumped into the pits, and we'll get 2 off the back as well going through in Craig Vaught and Wendell Lowe, who I think was just off the back, so he's going to get an extra lap on everyone else. So this is going to be, I think, quite fraught. I think it's actually quite clever at the moment to make that call. The only issue you're going to have is if you pit in now is if you get more cautions, because then you've taken that time, you've taken away the track position, and then you come back through the field, Ewan, and then all of a sudden your momentum gets stopped because there's crashes left and right. So that's the only thing that maybe is going to put things away. But the way they drove the opening stint here, going as long as they did green, I think that, you know, we're getting to the crunch time of the race. This is where you've got to have your head on the swivel, because these few laps coming up are going to be some money laps.
Very important final third of the race coming up as we have those drivers who have made their pit stops get back out again. Craig Vaught and Wendell Lowe will be the drivers to watch as far as those on the back row. Bobby Love and David Traynor will be on new tyres as well, but it does depend a little bit how lively this restart is. I mean, generally we see restarts get a bit more leery as we go along throughout the race, but we've only had 1 caution so far, and this is it. And the start of the race overall was fairly tame as far as incidents go. We didn't see any, barely saw any contact either. So wondering how much of a change it's going to look here after the first restart. Are we going to see real elbows out stuff, or is it going to be much the same like the actual start of the race? I'm not sure it's going to be sort of all out bashes and crashes just yet, to be honest, with more than 30 laps to go.
Well, here's something that I think is quite interesting. 10-lap fresher tyres cost you 3 places at the moment in this race for Bobby Love and for David Traynor. They've only got to get through Russ Addy, Eugene Clark, and they're back with Randy Shoemake once again. So they haven't really lost too much in terms of track position to go and garner these positions which they so desperately want to gain back in this next phase. But they do know that car 3 isn't someone who is really great in the early stages. These restart cycles might wear the tyres out to a point where there's going to be a little bit more happiness out there with the way they go. It's a double file restart here in your 60 plus racing adventures, because the lights have just gone off on the iRacing sedan pace car, which is due to come in at the end of this lap.
And the madness of another restart here at Iowa is going to be sprung up on all of us. Mike Grandy has been unchallenged throughout this race really so far, but now he's about to have his biggest challenge yet as he takes the restart from the front for the very first time. We've got 8 drivers on the lead lap, 4 of them on new tyres, the front 4 on 10-15 lap old tyres. Let's see what the difference is going to be in these final 33 laps as we bring the first caution of the night to an end. Racing at Iowa in the 60 plus Racing Adventures Next Gen Cup about to resume as Mike Grandy hits the gas and we go racing again. Look at that, Bobby Love trying to go through the middle already as he almost gets into the side of David Traynor. They're looking for those lanes to go into to make the passes. This is going to be the trouble now for those on new tyres. Traffic all in front of them.
Well, it's all about finding a gear, and Randy Shoemake just doesn't have enough RPM, and that's what's costing him on the restarts here. So he realises he's in trouble because Eugene Clark is now starting to move, and he looks to pinch now, moving into second position. Can he find something on the inside? Contact back there for 4th place as Rosati finds himself a little shot to the back by Mr. Bobby Love, who's hoping that his love is universal here in Newton, Iowa. He's hoping for a way through. Shoemake still holds.
And Love going around the outside should have the place now. Off of 4, he should get the run as those on the outside so often do, but he will have to enter high again here at 1 and 2, and Addy did look a little bit all at sea there on the previous lap. Contact meanwhile as I think that's Dave Watson trying to make up some places in the background. He's a few laps down but still very much getting involved. Don't forget about the lap drivers there. There's 5 drivers who are only 4 drivers who are only 1 lap down. They're fighting just as hard for their positions too.
Oh, they absolutely are, and I think that's so telling that you might have drivers, quicker drivers, looking to get past slower drivers. They won't matter about position. They'll be racing to try and gain the lap back. Wally Moulsby, we have a look at up on the top of the screen, hoping to try and stay in range with those drivers who are in front. But as things stand, it's starting to get a little bit congested again for second as we take another look. That's what found itself with the caution. Moulsby going up and over the top, and that was the damage that caused it. Tagged Watson a second time, and Bobby Love having to get out of the way for the returning to circuit Moulsby. But at the moment, it is Bobby Love who's looking most likely to make some moves right now. As you can see, falling backwards through the field is Russ Addy. He's dropped some time. It's going to be Eugene Clark now who's going to be looking on the defensive, running right up to the wall, trying to get a little bit of an extra something, using the walls a bit of side draft potentially to gain that extra mile an hour to get that move on the outside, and now moving to the rear quarter panel.
Well, he should get through here now on the outside. Bobby Love will see if he actually does. This is Bobby Moulsby returning to circuit early on, by the way. He was really wrestling with this car, and it makes me wonder how on earth he's got it all repaired and got it back out there with only 2 laps down. But there you go. Outside line for Bobby Love then, in towards turn 1 and 2, and no, he can't get it done. Really very close to David Traynor now as well, as he nearly gets hit, and look at that, a big slide for Eugene Clark. Does he spin back in front of everybody? I think he's okay, but he's dropped to the back of the lead lap.
He has absolutely crunched the inside wall, but because he hasn't broken a plane of 90 degrees and he's had that contact off of the main area of the circuit, we stay green here at Iowa, and Eugene Clark is desperately due for a fast repair because he's been given the black and orange mechanical flag, which means he must come down within 4 laps and serve that damage and get that car repaired with a fast repair. Real shame for the way he's been running here in this race, but that's the pitfall that you run into when you're getting into the nitty-gritty here at Iowa.
Randy Shoemake still holds the second position here in the number 3. Bobby Love trying to put him back into the position that his car number maybe suggests as he goes to the inside. Wow, that's a dive. Wasn't expecting him to do it quite so soon, but he just gets on the brakes late and fires down the inside of Randy Shoemake. Now, is he eyeing up Mike Grandy in the lead here, thinking if I get through right now, then maybe there's a chance at me getting this race win? Well, either way, he is looking to hold on to this second position, and no, can't quite do it for the moment. They'll remain side by side into 3 and 4. Meanwhile, there's Eugene Clark getting his repairs in pit lane.
Well, I think this is really telling that actually it's David Traynor who might have the pace. Shoemake still holding the outside lines, not giving Bobby Love anything, and they're really costing each other now over half a second. How deep in the corner does David Traynor want to go? He's proved he's got pace, and look at how much it's holding them back. A little bit of contact with the wall for Shoemake. Love again down on the inside because Russ Addy's joined back, so too Craig Fort in that group. Remember, he's in 6th position. He wants in as well at this stage, but look at the bottleneck. Bobby can't get clear of Randy Shoemake, and again on the brakes to 1 and 2 they go. There just needs to be a lane for David Traynor to attack. He's got to find a way because he's the quickest of the lot.
Can he get to the inside here, 3 wide? It would be very brave of him to do so. And he decides to stay behind Shoemake. And now finally, it looks like Bobby Love has gotten through into 3 and 4. So end of lap 80. And Mike Grandy still, start of lap 80. Mike Grandy still leading by a long way. Bobby Love now second. And David Traynor looking to make lighter work of Shoemake than Love was able to. Can he do it though? He looks to be struggling as well into 3 and 4.
Oh, he gets a lovely amount of turning though, but watch down the banking, trying to run it very much the same that you would do on the velodrome in the cycling. There is Randy Shoemake, but he doesn't get enough of a drop down that he wants, and as such David Traynor takes a lot less time to go and dispatch of what he needs to out there. Some very clever work. Watch out in the background, that's contact between Vaught and the 1 lap down Bruce Poole out there at the moment. Remember, he's racing with Jerry Kerr for position, and almost contact front to rear there. It's getting very dicey between multiple battles in this group.
By the way, racing for the lucky dog, which is why part of the reason why they're racing quite so hard. Bruce Poole and Jerry Kerr now for 8th place, of course, as Clark has dropped down to 13th in the race at the moment, but that was all very close. I'm not entirely sure. Craig Foote realised that he had someone on his outside through turn 2 there. Out over the line again for these guys, as they are all on, as I say, newer tyres anyway than those who started in the top 4 for the latest restart in this race, the only restart to date. 4.5 seconds the gap for Bobby Love. I think that is probably too much to do in too little time, but Mike Grandy is going to be pressed all the way from here, and probably closed all the way from here as well.
Well, he lost 2 tenths, did Bobby Love, on that last lap. So Mike Grandy, I think, is responding absolutely magnificently in the number 12 car. He has got the fine-tuned finesse that you need here for Iowa, and it's pretty much a case of he's got absolutely everything here in comparison to what he has going forward, with everybody else trying to find something to give some chase. Traynor there is third. You've got, of course, Randy Shoemake in 4th position, who we're just on board with, and now he's looking behind at 5th at the 111 of Russ Addy, who looked really good on that long run pace. He was just so far back mired in the pack that it's taken him this long to go from 13th up to 5th, but I don't think 4th is definitely out of the question at the moment. Same could be said for Craig Vaught. Row 7 could be 4th and 5th by the end of this race with just 1 caution to help them. That's just some incredible skill if there wasn't another caution to come help them out, and it is Gene Moore in the 65 who's round.
It is, and Russ Addy has slowed down quite a lot for some reason. There is Moore getting back on the circuit again after causing this second caution of the day, which is going to leave us with 10 or less laps remaining to figure out who's going to win this race. Gene Moore on the inside here, enters quite fast. Look, already fighting with a loose race car. There you go, there's the slide in the grass. Saves it once, saves it twice-ish. 3 times? Not quite. Saves it from the inside wall, not quite. Hits the inside wall and brings out the caution. This is finally, there you go. That was the longest crash I think I've ever seen. Anyway, Gene Moore down to 11th position and 2 laps down now as a result of this spin. And a big decision to be made in the bottom right-hand side of your screen as they come past pit lane for the first chance to make that 4-tyre change.
Well, in comes Mike Grandy. He will make that 4-tyre change, and he will be followed in by Shoemake and Addy and Vaught, the others staying out then trying to make sure that works. And that Gene Moore crash, I think, reminds me of one thing, and it reminds you of the sort of time where you get people who go out on and party and they find themselves on the mechanical bull, and they're trying to stay on. You know they're going to fall off at some point. It's that delayed fall. It's very much the same that we saw there in crash form by Gene Moore.
I was going to say it's a bit like the walk home after one too many lemonades, but anyway. Into the pit lane for 5 of the 7 in the lead lap, or it was 7. Bruce Poole has got the lucky dog, and he works his way around to the front and decides not to pit himself. Interesting call for Love and Trainer to stay out. What would have been even more interesting, though, I've got to say, is that Mike Grandy came in first of all. When the two behind him missed pit lane or decided not to come in, I thought Grandy might be hung out to dry on his own and come out at the back. But actually, the fact that he pulled 4 others onto pit lane with him has, in a weird way, sort of helped him here, because he'll have the confidence that he's the quickest driver. But now he's only got 2 drivers to overtake rather than 6, which is what he could have had.
Well, just look at the laps that he's got to try and make that happen. He will have himself about 10 laps to make it work. He has been electric off the start, but for the first time, we're going to see Mike Grandy have to try and make overtakes. He's been fantastic when he's been on his own out in front in the field. Now that you mire him and get him to squabble in the pack in 3rd position, with Bruce Poole trying to get himself into play, Randy Shoemaking and around as well, you start now asking the questions: how much is he going to be held up, and how much is he going to be able to use those tyres with the time that they have remaining? Remember, this might be a case of, with drivers trying to push through, that quick cautions leave you stuck back there. That's what Mike Grandy's trying to avoid. It's always a gamble when you're out there in front and you make the call to sacrifice that race lead for a strategy that will have to make you make overtakes to win this race. He'll have to get that Chevrolet moving. It's just going to be a question of, can he do enough in the time that is remaining?
Let's see. The wave by is not going to be issued to a lot of the drivers who were expecting it here, by the way. I think some were hoping that everyone would come in and the guys 1 lap down and more could go round and get one of their laps back, but they're not going to get that chance. There's Grandy pulling up to the 3rd position as the lead lap drivers are going to be filtered to the front. First 4 rows again will be taken up by drivers who are on the lead lap. It's going to be Love, Trainer, Grandy, Shoemake, Addy, Poole, Foot and Lowe. Although I think Bryce Poole is going to have to drop to the back of at least the lead lap, if not the entire train. There he is in the black and white on the left-hand side. He's going to drop to the back of the field. And 1 more after this one, so we're going to have 9 laps of racing when we go back. I hope it's going to be all under green, because it's going to be very exciting indeed, but surely the odds are still stacked in Mike Grandy's favour.
You'd say, with the way that he's going about business, that he is the driver to beat in this series at this moment, and everyone else has got to try and say, what can we do to stop them? Bobby Love and David Trainer have put themselves in a position where they can manage that, and it might just be down to how good is that start from Bobby Love, because if he can shake the number 12 of Mike Grandy off his wheel, he's got a real opportunity to start running away with it and saying, I can build a gap. He might need a bit of help out there, but this start, I think, is going to be a difference maker between whether you're going to be out there looking to win this one or whether you're going to be looking behind at Mike Grandy deciding, I want to fly.
Let's see what's going to happen on this 2nd restart of the night. The final third of this race has been punctuated with a couple of cautions now, but it's been mostly a clean and green race here at Iowa. How will that change in these final 9 laps as the 60 Plus Racing Adventures Next Gen Cup comes to its 3rd conclusion of the season? Bobby Love in control of the field as the green flag is in hand. We're racing again, and Mike Grandy already looking up the inside on the way towards turn 1. It's Love and Trainer who are looking to do their best to hold them all back, and they're fighting amongst themselves while they're at it. Trainer on the outside trying to make this work. Grandy going to the very inside as they're nearly 3 wide. Grandy trying to get the lead, can't quite do it. Look at Randy Shoemake up on the high side as well.
Watch out going low. You need to cover low because Grandy's now going to start making progress down low to take the race lead away. David Trainer fighting the grip out there, but the fresh tyres of Mike Grandy as he hugs the apron, the only one to have done it so far today, moves into the race lead. And is it going to be a formality from this point onwards? Trainer fighting on that high line with everything that he's got, but grip says no, you've got no boots to help you. And there goes the 44 into the infield trying to save it, goes back circuit, heavy contact with Maudsley, and it's a caution.
And it's Moresby's second time on his roof. Dave Watson gets involved for the second time in this race as well. Lap 94, third caution of the day. And Bobby Love, who at one stage was looking like he might make strides in this championship, is all of a sudden going to be losing points. His front right suspension is toast by the looks of that.
Well, it just goes to show you how hard you're fighting, and Bobby Love is hoping to try and keep himself in play. He was looking for every little bit of power he could possibly put into those rear tyres, but once you hit the limit of grip, you've got a car that is naturally skewed over to turn left, so the car is going to very much struggle to pull straight as you go in through the grass, and as he gets the grip back, oh, Moresby, such a huge bystander at that moment. There was no way he was going to avoid that contact there with Bobby Love, and also getting involved there was Dave Watson in the 17, who looks like he's been involved in every incident today in some way, shape or form.
Does, unfortunately, he's back in pit lane. Moresby as well, after riding the wall on the way towards turn 1. I believe, by the way, everyone's had their chance to come in there, and David Traynor has decided, I've made this bed, so I'll lie in it, and he's probably correct to do so as well. He's in the number 38, trying to hang on to what is now second position. Bobby Love in the pit lane, I'm afraid, will go a lap down as a result of that. And so we've got one more restart to go here before we start getting over 100 laps and things start getting complicated. This is the onboard I was waiting for. I think Moresby was just hoping he'd get ahead in time and get past in time, but he misjudged it slightly. And as you say, couldn't have slowed down and turned left probably, even if he wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's a sickening accident when you look at it, and it's the sort that you go, thank goodness that's sim racing every time you see something like that happen, because you look at an incident like that and you go, well, it's a car crash waiting to happen. You can't really turn your head away from it, but you look at it and go, well, what can you do? You're stuck on that high line, and by the time that you can predict that that car's coming back up the circuit, you're trying to be down low. It's very tough to predict that, and you really can't give Wally Moresby any sort of saying you could have done this, you could have done that. He was just in it for the ride, and often that's what hurts the most when you go out there and try and conduct a race, knowing that some things sometimes are just a little bit out of your control.
Yeah, unfortunately you can't quite control everything in racing, and that is, or that was one of them. JC Hay has come in again here from the lead lap. Don't know what that's all about, but there'll be a fresh set of tyres for the 89 to the end of this race by the looks of things. Bruce Poole still hasn't decided to come in, neither has David Traynor, despite the fact that they're on over 30 lap old tyres at this stage now. And we've got only 3 to go at the end of this one, so I wonder how many we're going to, I guess we're going to be down to 2 lap green flag runs to the end here. It's going to be a real dash.
Well, this is the original green-white checker then that you had before everyone decided that they wanted to involve overtime in all of what they've got going on. Moresby taking the long roll down the banking here, and it's a very hefty amount that he's got. Now, the issue that Wally Moresby's got is that by the way that he's pitted, he's taken a fast repair at every pit stop here over the course of this race, Ewan, and as such, that instant, he's got no more cars to play with. He's out.
Yes, indeed. So, coming out to the right-hand side there is Gene Moore getting out the way. And so, as you say, we're going to have 2 laps to go. To be honest, green white checker I do find quite similar to overtime racing. There's a few intricacies that are a little bit different, but effectively we are in for an exciting finish here. And
might be a one-lap dash.
To come in a couple of... is it going to be a 1 lap?
Well, the lights are still on here on the iRacing sedan pace car, so that pretty much says to me that if the lights aren't going to go off here at the stripe, it's going to be day done. But I reckon here it's going to be a 1-lap shootout here with the way that it's all going about here, because it's all about giving yourself enough time to the end. And if an incident's happened over the course of crossing the line, of course, sometimes you do get that extra lap that's added on. And just taking a look here at the pace car, we are going to go to green-white checker out there, so we'll officially call it 101 laps here around Iowa.
Yeah, I thought there might be a lap added, so we are indeed going to get our 2-lap green flag run to the end, and we'll keep adding the laps if we need to, but hopefully this is going to be our last restart of the day, and we're going to get an enthralling finish. Mike Grandy going for his second win of the season, and his second in a row, of course, after winning at Chicagoland ahead of Randy Shoemake and Jack Turner, who finished third that day. He's not here today, unfortunately, but we do have Grandy and Shoemake here in first and fourth. Grandy, the overwhelming favourite after leading most of the laps of this race. A good last restart from him to get himself into the lead. And now he's just got to execute the final restart, maybe, of the round 3 of the 60 Plus Racing Adventures Next Gen Cup, with Mike Grandy in control with Green Flag Racing. Look at the reaction from David Traynor, who's on the outside line and giving this a right good go into turn 1 and 2.
Perfect prediction by David Traynor, but remember the tyre disadvantage that's there. Ross Addy down on the inside in third, looking like he's got everything that he wants to gain out of it, and Shoemake on the outside now trying to make some moves. So too is Craig Vaught, who's hoping that he's got what he wants. They head over to the line. This one will go official.
White flag here at Iowa. This will be the last lap. Oh, even despite incidents and a huge smash on the last lap, they all turn out the right way as down the order goes Russ Addy, Randy Shoemake, and also David Traynor. But out front, undeterred by it all, Mike Grandy is going to win for the second time this season and takes top spot here at Iowa by some distance as far as the records will go. Mike Grandy wins again in dramatic circumstances in that last lap.
That is all down to preparation from Mike Grandy. He was the fastest driver all day long, and nobody was going to take it away from him. He knew the right place at the right time to make the moves he needed to, and with what happened with Russ Addy and co. completely blowing apart the field, Bruce Poole will take second, and it's a third place for JC Hay, who had been nowhere all day long. There's a look at the incident. Just getting loose is getting tight, is Addy there into the corner. He just went straight up the banking and couldn't get it slowed.
I noticed that through 3 and 4 on the penultimate lap for Russ Addy. He did go up the hill and force Shoemake to do the same, and if anything, it sort of just happened again at 1 and 2, and then it was still all going on. I think that was that Vaught in the wall? It was. He drops to 7th. Well, what a bizarre finish in many ways, but what a fantastic green-white checker to finish. There is the smoke being thrown up by Mike Grandy as he celebrates another win. It's 4.8 seconds as far as the record books will show. Bruce Poole gaining 5 or 6 places on that restart to finish second in the end, despite being on over 30-lap old tyres. JC Hay spent a lot of the race a lap down, and he'll finish third ahead of Randy Shoemake, who somewhat unbelievably finishes the race in the same position he restarted that final restart in. David Traynor finishes the final drive inside the top 5. Russ Addy and Craig Vaught were the final drivers to finish on the lead lap. Jerry Kerr and Bobby Love were 1 lap down. Eugene Clark was 2 down, along with Gene Moore, along with Wendell Lowe. Gene Moore was 3 down. Dave Watson 4 down. Wally Moulsby retired after that second crash on the front straight. Well, we're immediately joined by David Traynor, who is now along with us in the broadcast booth. Welcome in, David. Good to have you with us. What about that last restart there? You were starting up towards the front on the front row. You ended up in 5th. Tell us what happened. Doesn't sound like we've got David with us, so we can't hear him anyway. So I'm going to try him again later and let him figure out his mic problems, and we'll drag him in a few minutes' time. Let's try Mike Grandy first of all, though, or next of all, because he did win the race. Mike, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Can you hear us, and can we hear you?
Oh, I got you guys.
Thanks for it. I'm glad. Congratulations on the win. I mean, what a lively end to that race. Tell us about the final restart.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely made it more interesting. The second to last caution, I just decided, even though I was out front, if I didn't pit, everybody else would have. So that kind of forced my hand to pit, which put me in third on the restart. And I knew I had better tires, and I trust the guys that were up there. I knew it was going to be a good restart. And I saw the opening on the bottom under Bobby. I don't know if he expected it, But I stuck it in there and, kept it down. And I think we were probably 3 wide there for a little bit. And David drove in as hard as he could and pushed up, and it was enough for me to take the lead back.
Well, it's 2 weeks in a row now that you've taken top spot. How are you feeling about the rest of the season now? There's still, of course, a long way to go, but how does this make you feel ahead of the next 10 races?
Yeah, I think consistency is the main thing, and usually, as long as we're on tracks that are, fairly competitive, unlike tracks like Talladega, Daytona, and Atlanta, where, it's kind of a crapshoot. Then I think I got a pretty good shot at, at least finishing top 5 every week. So I look forward to it, and as long as I don't miss any races, we should be good.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you at all of them. Mike, congratulations on the win tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for the broadcast. We appreciate that.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure to do it again this time round. Mike Grandy, the winner here at Iowa. Tonight, let's have another go at David Traynor, shall we? As he was 5th. Welcome in, David. Good to have you with us. Can you hear us, or can we hear you? Yes, that is a resounding no, I'm afraid. So we'll have to give that one a miss for the moment. But David Traynor finishes in 5th position tonight, and sadly we can't seem to chat to him. Jerry Kerr is also waiting for us. We'll give him a
hello, guys.
Chat as well. Good afternoon. Welcome to the booth. 8th place for you tonight, finishing just 1 lap down. Tell us about your race.
Well, it was pretty exciting. The problem with this track for me, anyway, is that the tires early in the run, if you get the tires overheated, it really kills the rest of your laps for the rest of the stint that you're doing. That's one reason why I pitted early, got back up, got lucky to be in 8th.
What tracks are you going to be, I suppose, more looking forward to in the rest of this calendar? There's still 10 races to go. Any ones you're particularly waiting out for?
Not really. I'm more in the GT3 races that you guys will be doing later on, the 8th week, I think. That's the ones I'm really looking forward to. These I just kind of do them, to help support the league. Yeah,
exactly. We will indeed be with the GT3 schedule a little bit later on. You're absolutely correct. 1st of November, we will be there for that one. So we look forward to seeing you then next on camera. But thanks for coming to chat to us tonight, and we will see you in those few weeks, a month or so, in the GT3s.
Great, and thanks for doing this, guys. Really enjoy it.
Thanks very much. Jerry Kerr there joining us here in after finishing 8th place here tonight at Iowa. That's just about going to do it for us here tonight. What a welcome that is back to RaceSpot, Jake. It was a fantastic race, a good couple of restarts towards the end after a long green flag run at the beginning. It had almost everything. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
It was a smorgasbord of what makes racing great racing, I think. You got that long green flag run there that definitely allowed these drivers to go out and show what they could do in a long run pace. We saw short run pace with the caution to caution areas out there, and ultimately the driver who'd pretty much dominated proceedings here today was able to turn up to the books and get the victory that was rightfully deserved in Mike Grandy's back pocket. It's going to be very tough to pull the championship away from him, but if anyone can do it, you need to find an element of consistency, and there were definitely challengers over the course of today with Shoemake, with Traynor, and with Bobby Love, who all proved that they could, on any given day, give a run for his money.
What a dramatic finish, as you just saw there. Big smash in towards 1 and 2. Craig Vaught had second almost in front of him and then spun around on the back straight himself on the final lap. But it was Mike Grandy who took the win. His second in the space of 2 weeks, and he takes the championship lead as well. Still 10 races to go, of course, in the 60 Plus Racing Adventures Next Gen Cup. The next time we will be bringing you 60 Plus Racing Adventures Racing, it will be with the GT3s at the Red Bull Ring on the 1st of November. So I hope that you'll join us for that then. For now, though, I've been Ian Leary, Jake Sperry has been alongside me, and Ramin Augustin Cisneros has been behind the cameras. Until we see you in November for GT3 action from the Red Bull Ring, it's goodbye for now.